Hello, and welcome to another edition of Wellness Wednesday Three Questions. This is just my short show where I ask my guests three questions. The whole reason I do this is just to eliminate the stigma with mental health. And so today I have my special guest here, and I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself with the first question. And the first question simply is, can you tell us who you are?
Hi, Patricia. Thanks for having me here. My name is Erica Irvin, and I am the Executive Director of Mental Health America of Arizona.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming today, Erica. I really appreciate your time. The second question is, why is mental health important to you?
I think at some point in our lives, we've all had some type of trauma that we've had to deal with, and we've needed help. And I'll be honest, I'm always honest with people when I say, I went through a tough time in my life when my sister died. I needed to seek counseling. And it was a really rough time in my life. But you know what? That got me through so much. And to be quite honest, I don't know where I would be today had I not done that. And
Mm,
I will tell you that that's been more than 20 years. But even back then, there was so much stigma. Things are getting better now, but we could still do
mm,
better. But back then, there was so much stigma around even grief and loss. And, some people just literally said, well, you should get over it. And
mm,
those types of comments were just absolutely appalling to me. And more than 20 years later, I'm still not over it per se.
mhm,
It gets
mhm.
better, and I still have bad days, but I think we all need to understand that there is nothing wrong with seeking treatment or admitting that you need help. Because
Mhm.
again, had I not admitted to myself that I needed help, who knows where I'd be.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. That kind of ties into the last question. Actually, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I want to learn a little bit more. I want our listeners to learn a little bit more about Mental Health America of Arizona. So that'll be a fourth question. But the third question is, so there's a concept called internalized stigma. And
Mhm.
that's basically people who are living with a mental illness. There's some stigmas within themselves, and oftentimes that generates feelings of guilt or
Sure.
shame, and that really stops people from seeking the help that they need, seeking help that might help them through the trauma or kind of, through the mental illness, or it stops them from seeking coping techniques and coping tools.
Sure.
In your opinion, what's one or two things you could say to someone who's living with a mental illness to help unlearn some of that stigmatized, internalized shame? What would
That's
you
a
say?
wonderful question. That really is a wonderful question because a lot of people are trying to teach others who
Mhm,
don't have any type of mental illness to learn more about stigma and not be so judgmental. But I think when it
mhm,
comes to the direct person who's dealing with it, I think first they need to give themselves some grace. I
mhm,
think I think we none of us do that enough. We all
mhm.
have our own issues. We all are going through bad days, good days, whatever. But I think we need to give ourselves some grace. And I think also be honest with yourself and with others about what's going on. Because
Mm,
again, so many times people internalize the stigma, the comments, so many things out there which can be so detrimental to everyday living, our own mental health, that
mhm,
you do internalize things so much. And so I think if you can be honest with yourself first and foremost, but then other people who you trust and who you know and love about what's happening, I think it just opens up the conversation to then
yeah,
ultimately getting more help and realizing it's okay. It's
mhm,
not a big deal. We
yeah,
openly talk about heart problems and cancer.
mm,
Why can't we talk about mental illness that way too? So we should
yeah.
be able to.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so self grace, showing yourself some grace, and actually being able to open up to someone that you trust. Very important
Absolutely.
points. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much for those. Now, Executive Director of Mental Health America of Arizona. Tell me a little bit about the organization.
Sure. We are a very small nonprofit in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is we don't provide direct services, but what we do is we do free online mental health screenings. So anyone can go to our website at any point and take a mental health screening. And again, it's free of charge, but also it is completely anonymous. I know a lot of people are so worried about information that's taken from phones and online and this and that and the other, but it really truly is anonymous based on the questions that are, I should say the responses to the questions that are asked. Additional resources are provided to the person if they do need additional assistance. We do public policy. So if anything comes up at the legislative level regarding any issues regarding mental health, then we will, we may get involved and we may, put our support in, or we may say, we don't really support this, or we'd like to tweak this a little bit. But also we do education. We have a program called Mental Health in the Workplace. And we have seen over the last couple of years, because of the pandemic, the great resignation, as everyone's calling it. People are stressed out. They've got so many family issues going on. They've got loved ones that are sick and dying because of COVID, and we all have something going on. And so work is a stressful place because of so many things that go into that as well. So we provide a training called Mental Health in the Workplace that provides information to people about different types of mental illnesses and how we can help not only ourselves, but other people that we know. Many times people spend so many hours a day with people that they work with. They sometimes spend more time with their coworkers than with their own families. And so they become very close and they want to know how they can help their coworker, their colleague, their friend, whatever they may call them. And so we talk about how to help yourself and others. And then, what to do if you do see someone who might be in crisis, but most importantly, we don't expect anyone to come out of this a counselor, because as we know that takes years of training, but we provide resources for people because without those resources, people don't know where to turn. And I think we're all fully aware of how difficult the mental health space is. A lot of people just don't even know where to start. You can Google mental health and a million different things will come up. Google, it can be both a blessing and a curse. And if you just randomly Google mental health, so many things are going to come up and it's so overwhelming for people. And so we at least tell people where they can start. And then overall, as an organization, along with that education, we do provide resources. So if anybody were to call me, I had a family call the other night saying, we've got a son who is not willing to get help right now. Where can we turn? And so I was able to give them some crisis line resources because they had no idea. And their son was in Tempe. They were in Yuma. They had no idea. And I get calls like that all the time. I've got family from out of state in New York that will call me in Arizona saying, I've got a loved one in Arizona. What do I do? And so we want to be a resource for people because we want to help them get the help that they need before it gets to that crisis level. We have a saying here at Mental Health America of Arizona and our national office as a whole. It's called before stage 4. If you think of mental health like cancer, hopefully people start to treat it differently. If someone were diagnosed with cancer, they would not wait until it got to stage 4 to do something about it. As soon as they found out about it, whether it's stage 1, 2, whatever it may be, they're going to get on it right away to try and figure out what's happening, to try and get that treatment. We want people to treat mental health the same way. As soon as you start seeing any symptoms, having any issues, treat that right away so it doesn't get to that critical stage of stage 4.
Thank you so much, Erica. Thank you so much for saying that. It sounds like a wonderful organization, to say the least. If someone would want to reach out, what would be the way that they would be able to do that? Is there a website, telephone number? How can they reach out?
So we do have a website. It's MHAarizona.org. or they can call directly. So whenever people call, they'll get me. Our number is 602-576-4828. But yes, please reach out. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. Again, we provide resources. One of them is a signs of symptoms and depression card and suicide and crisis line. It's literally a business size card. We've got signs and symptoms of depression and suicide on here. And on the other side, we have non-crisis lines and crisis phone numbers, and then a QR code. So if someone just wants to get to our website, they scan it, it'll take them right to our website. I send these to schools. I send these to businesses. People have asked me, when I go to mental health fairs, I will hand them out and I'll say, if there is nothing else that you take on this table, please take this. So people have a handy resource, because again, imagine being in a crisis and you're just Googling random stuff,
Sure.
Keep it somewhere where you keep important phone numbers in your house. Some people will put on a fridge with a magnet, whatever it may be. But I'm happy to provide these resources for people, because ultimately that's what we do. But again, we don't provide direct resources, but we will get them to the right resources.
No, that's important. That's uber important. So I thank you so much for coming today. So people can order that card off of Mental Health America's website?
They don't order it. They just give me a call. I'll send some out to people. So I'm happy to do that. And again, if anyone wants me to come out to their company and speak with their employees, I can certainly do that, or their mental health fair. I'm happy to do that. So that's what I do.
Well, thank you so much for all that you do. And again, I really appreciate your time here today. Just by speaking out today, just by providing the resources, talking about Mental Health of America, of Arizona, you've helped eliminate stigma with mental illness. So I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. You're very welcome. So this has been Wellness Wednesday 3 Questions. If you would like to be a guest on the show, simply reach out to me. The telephone number is 262-207-4130, or you can visit the website, and that is www.ptaylorconsulting.com.